We've all been there. It's that perfect beach day, right? You've got the sun, the sand, the waves, and that big umbrella giving you some much-needed shade. But what most of us never really think about is how that perfect moment can turn, well, pretty dangerous in a split second. Let's get into why.
So get this. Every single summer, right here in the US, emergency rooms see over 3,000 patients. And what are they there for? Injuries from wind-blown beach umbrellas. Nope, not a typo. 3,000. This is way more than just a little annoyance. It's a real and really common hazard.
Just let that sink in for a minute. That umbrella, the one you brought for comfort, basically becomes a 5 to 8 pound spear flying across a crowded beach. But here's the most important part. Almost all of these injuries are completely preventable. So today, we're going to figure out how to stop it for good. We tested 4 of the most common anchor systems out there to see which ones actually do the job.
And look, this isn't just me saying it's a big deal. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, they've put out multiple warnings about this. What's really awful is that most of the time, it's not even the umbrella's owner who gets hurt. It's a bystander. And because of their height, kids are, sadly, the ones who are most often affected.
Okay, so why does this even happen? Well, you have to think about what a beach actually is. It's basically a natural wind tunnel. You've got all this wind coming right off the ocean with absolutely nothing to block it or slow it down. This creates a really unique set of forces that we need to wrap our heads around.
Now here's where it gets really wild. Check out how fast that force climbs. A normal 7-foot umbrella canopy is essentially a sail. At just 20 miles per hour, which is a pretty typical breeze at the coast, that thing is being pushed sideways with 40 to 60 pounds of force. Seriously, imagine someone trying to yank a heavy suitcase out of your hands. That's the kind of power that's trying to rip your umbrella right out of the sand.
And that brings us to the second half of the problem. You have this huge force pulling on your umbrella, and what's it stuck in? Sand, one of the weakest materials on the planet to anchor something in. Dry sand, forget about it. The grains just flow right around the pole. Now, wet sand's a little better, sure, but it's still way, way weaker than just regular dirt in your backyard.
So let's recap. You've got this massive sideways force hitting a pole that's stuck in really terrible anchoring material. It's a total perfect storm of physics, and it all leads to the single biggest and most dangerous mistake that, let's be honest, pretty much all of us have made.
Yep, you know what I'm talking about. Just taking the pole and twisting it back and forth in the sand until it feels sturdy. Here's the deal. That only gives you maybe 2 or 3 inches of actual grip. But to be safe, you need more than 18 inches of depth. I mean, that's a huge difference. This twisted method gives you this false sense of security that's going to fail you in just a little 10-mile-per-hour breeze.
All right, so if just twisting it in is the wrong way, what's the right way? Well, that's what we wanted to find out. We took 4 of the most popular anchor systems out to the beach and put them to the test in real wind. So let's go through them from worst to best and see what happened.
First up, we've got the cheapest and simplest one of the bunch, the sand anchor bag. The idea is simple. You fill this bag with sand, you strap it to the pole. You can find them everywhere for about $12. Super simple.
So it adds about 15, maybe 20 pounds of weight. But here's the fatal flaw. It only adds downward weight. It does practically nothing to stop that sideways lateral force from the wind. So, no surprise, in our test, it was a total failure as soon as the wind hit 15 miles per hour. Our verdict? Hey, it's better than nothing, but just barely. Think of it as an emergency backup only.
Okay, let's move on to our next contender, the screw-in sand anchor. You've probably seen these. It's a very popular spiral design. Still really affordable at around $18, and it's easy to pack. The whole point is to get you more depth than you could with just the pole.
This little guy gets you about 12 inches deep, which, hey, is a huge improvement. And in our testing, it held on tight up to 20 miles per hour, but once the wind started gusting to 25, you could see it start to wobble and fail. So here's the key takeaway. It's a totally fine option for a really calm day, but if you look up and those lifeguard flags are whipping around, this anchor isn't going to cut it. You have to know its limits.
Not for something that takes a completely different approach. This is the Beach Bub Ultra Base. It doesn't use depth at all. Instead, you fill this big fabric disc with sand, creating this huge heavy base right on the surface. We're talking over 60 pounds of weight.
I gotta say, this was hands down the easiest anchor to set up. No twisting, just a little shoveling. And it did great. It held solid up to 25 miles per hour and only started to shift a little bit around 30. So, what's the catch? Well, it's bulky. It weighs 3 pounds before you even put sand in it, and it takes up a good bit of room. But if you want something that's super easy and really stable, this is a fantastic choice, especially for families.
All right, so 3 anchors down and 3 really different outcomes. But one of these systems just stood out from the pack. It held on when every other anchor had either totally failed or was on the verge of it. There was one undisputed winner in our test.
Let's just look at the results side by side. You can see it plain as day. At 15 miles per hour, the sandbag is already done. Crank it up to 25, and the screw-in anchor gives up. The beach bub holds on, which is impressive. But once those gusts hit 35 miles per hour, there was only one anchor left standing, not moving an inch.
And the winner is the heavy-duty sand auger. We're talking about an 18-inch or longer steel spiral that you literally drill deep into the sand. This auger design is brilliant. It grips the sand along its entire length, spreading out the load and creating this unbelievably secure anchor point. It didn't budge at 35 miles per hour or even beyond that. And here's the kicker, at just $25, it's actually cheaper than our number 2 pick. You get the best performance for the best value.
Okay, so now we know the auger is the clear winner. But just buying the right tool is only half the battle, right? You've got to use it the right way. So let's do a quick run-through of the proper way to install this thing to make sure your umbrella is locked in no matter what. First, and this is important, find some damp, packed sand. Stay away from the dry, fluffy stuff near the dunes. Second, twist that auger all the way down. Don't stop until only the top part where the pole goes is visible. You need that full depth. Third, make sure the pole fits in there nice and snug. And last, give the canopy a little tilt. It helps maximize your shade and can even help the wind press the umbrella down into the anchor.
And all of this brings us back to the most important point. A beach umbrella is supposed to be about comfort, about keeping your family safe from the sun. But if you don't anchor it right, it can easily become the most dangerous thing on the beach. So the next time you head out to the shore, just ask yourself this: is my family's shade truly secure?